welcome to this episode of Filmi Ladies. I'm your host Pitu, and this is my very dear friend Beth. And today we're joined by a very dear friend, Nihit Bhave. We're so excited to have you, Nihit. Um, for those of you who don't know, Nihit used to be a film journalist and then he became a full time screenwriter and he's now become a director as well. You may have seen some of the work he's associated with. He's worked on Sacred Games 1 and 2, Lust Stories. He has recently come out with his own short film Phir Kabhi, which is playing in a lot of festivals right now. He's also the writer of Choked, which is like such an amazing film, and he was also associated with Dobaaraa, the Taapsee Pannu starrer. So lots of amazing film credentials, and we're amazed he still wants to be friends with me. But thanks for coming, Nihit. And today we're going to discuss the latest Madhuri Dixit OTT release, which is Maja Ma, and that's going to lead a little bit into a meandering conversation about how Bollywood portrays the LGBTQIA experience. So I hope that all of our viewers and listeners are going to enjoy this episode. So let's start with you, Nihit. What did you think about Maja Ma?
Hi. So, firstly, thank you for having me. And this podcast is so perfect for the both of you because I know you for so long, Pitu. And Beth have followed so long on Twitter. And I just know that this is what you guys are great at. So, congratulations on your
Thank you.
podcast. And yeah, Majama really managed to surprise me in a lot of ways. Because first of all, my mother recommended it to me. So that was like a
Oh.
very, yeah. So when I knew what it's about, because in the community and the news was out anyway, but when my mother recommended it to me, I was like, even if it's like a cringe film, I have to watch it because I have to know what my mom thinks of this subject.
Right.
So that was one of the main reasons, and this podcast, because we discussed that the sort of peg is going to be around Majama. So I wanted to watch it anyway. But yeah, it was a really surprising movie in a lot of ways because it's the most direct film I've seen in terms of dialogue. In the entire spectrum of LGBT films in the recent past, because like head on it says the word lesbian 19 times, and that's so refreshing because none of the other movies, including Badhaai Do, which is like, we'll come to it, but it's like my
Yeah.
most favorite gay film in India so far. But yeah, including Badhaai Do, which does not have this kind of directness. So what happens is it also becomes cringe in a lot of places for our generation because you don't need to explain what LGBTQIA plus stands for in multiple scenes.
Right.
But now, thinking from the point of view of my mother, who's 59 and who's probably not Googled these things in spite
Yeah.
of being her son. So maybe it's necessary in those ways, but there's always an aesthetically pleasing way to do it, or there's always a better writing solution to it, which I don't think they did, but we'll discuss the minuses of the film later. What I really liked was Madhuri Dixit, like the superstar that we've all grown up with, saying that she's a lesbian in so many words and not like being indirect about it. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we need. Like, it's simpler for Rajkumar Rao and Bhumi Pednekar to do it, but it's way more difficult for Madhuri Dixit with her image and what she's done in the industry so far to do it. And like 10 on 10 to her for that. And also, like, her relationship with Gajraj Rao, although it could have been slightly better written because I don't think he was utilized to the fullest in the entirety of the movie. When it came to those scenes, when this is like obviously all spoilers, so
Yeah.
like a little too late in the game
All
for
our
giving
episodes are
spoilers.
spoilers. We've done
Yeah,
episodes
exactly.
where, like for Ponniyin Selvan and stuff, it's like we're at the 15-minute mark, and Beth is like, "Oh, this contains
Oh,
spoilers," and I'm
spoiler
like,
alert.
"Yeah, it does."
No, it's gone. So anyway, so like the scenes where she's talking about how he's never asked her before sex during the entirety of their marriage, and now he has no right to comment on it and stuff like that. I think those are very necessary conversations, even out of the LGBTQIA plus spectrum,
Mhm.
because this is a conversation that a wife needs to have with her husband. And that's so nice for Madhuri Dixit to do that instead of some
Right.
indie movie that's done festivals that my mother will never get to see. This is so out there and so mainstream. So yeah, all those parts were really, really surprising. Her performance was a complete winner. I don't think she's acted in the last 10 years. Has she? Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think she's taken on an acting role in the
I mean,
recent past,
she
which
did
doesn't
Fame.
involve her. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen Fame Game, but it feels
It's
like
pretty
a vanity project because she's still doing those like flowing dupatta numbers in a,
good.
in
It's
a
pretty
Netflix
good. Watch it.
series.
I'm not saying Fame Game is perfect, but it's definitely like a meaty role, and
Yeah,
she
yeah.
shades to her character. So she's definitely acted well in that. So I liked Fame Game.
Okay,
Other than
so I'll
that,
have
she's
to check
mostly
that
on
out. Yeah,
reality shows.
but you know what I mean. Like before that, it's been Kalank and double, triple Dhamal or whatever that was, and like she's just like Madhuri Dixit. She's just like been herself as a brand, and it
Mhm.
felt like she cared about what she was doing in this, and which like added a lot to it. So thumbs up from my side for Maja Ma.
What was interesting was so my cousin Priya, whom you know, so
Yeah,
Priya and Priya, I told them that they should also watch Maja Ma, and they were like, yeah, okay, we'll give it a shot. And of course, like everyone from Priya's generation and our generation who grew up with the Madhuri Dixit,
yeah,
I expected Priya and Paula to like the movie just as I did, just as my husband did, but I was not expecting the emotional reaction I got from her
yeah,
because she saw it, and then on our group chat she said that they were watching Maja Ma and they both, Priya and Paula, both burst into tears. And
yeah,
she had written in all caps, I never thought in my lifetime I would watch the superstar, the Madhuri Dixit that we grew up watching. I never thought she would say in all caps in a movie, I am a lesbian. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
normalized and you're unapologetic about it. And she said it was such, we were just like emotional and we were just crying in the film, and especially
yeah,
her chemistry with Simone Singh. So I found that also very interesting because I loved the movie and I've always been a diehard Madhuri fan, but I didn't necessarily have that emotional reaction
yeah,
that say Priya and Paula had. So I
yeah.
found that also very interesting from like an actual gay person's perspective.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I had like I didn't cry in this one because obviously like different lives, different things to relate with and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But like I though I watched in the theater 3 times, and I have
Wow.
been dehydrated all 3 times because like I needed what I was crying so much. So yeah, there are things that they get very personal, and maybe like in Madhuri's story in the film there must have been places that Priya like related to a lot.
Right.
I was completely choking up. I didn't like, I was really emotionally like all like, I was really choked up, and I
The
wanted a
fees.
relief in all these places where the son is being an asshole, and like the mother is just like, and she's not being an asshole back to him, which was really cool because this whole thing of a mother being a mother is a good way to communicate with our mother's generation. I feel like the moment you go a little outside of the track and like you
Mhm.
make her to be like a gray person who has rage issues or who gets back at her son in a particular way, you lose the audience. But she was just so inside of her character, and she knew exactly how she had to do the scenes. And it was really amazing to see that in that way also you're able to communicate this point that frankly our generation it's become an agenda for our generation. It's become like it's a propaganda almost when it comes to young LGBTQ films, which is why when we talk about it, I'm going to outrage about Shubh Mangal Zyada Saavdhan. That's for another time in the this chat. But yeah, it almost felt like the story was happening matter of factly and not because it
Yeah.
was centered around this one plot point, which is very important because that's how you walk, like it's the definition of normalizing things, that
Yeah.
it's normal to talk about it in a normal way. So even though the son was completely out of character after a certain point and was being absolutely rude to the mother, she was so contained and she was so within her boundaries while reacting to his outrageous behavior, which like
Mhm.
sold it even more for me. Yeah.
Yeah. That last scene especially was super amazing. I mean, I kind of teared up a little bit at that scene where it's
Yeah,
that last Garba scene, and it's Simone Singh and Madhuri, and Simone Singh just says to her, in my next
yeah,
janam, I'll come back as a man for
yeah,
you. And I thought probably Madhuri will say yes, I hope so too, or whatever, implying that they'll be together. But she actually says, no, I want you to be
yeah,
Kanchan in the next
yeah,
janam as well. I just thought that was so
Lovely.
lovely. Like she would
Yeah.
yeah,
still make that same choice and she would still love that same person.
Mm.
That was
yeah.
lovely.
My heart had stopped for a second because I almost thought that this film is going to be the film which says, yeah, you come back as a man. And I was like, okay, what is this? Where is this going? I don't know where this is going.
Yeah.
But thankfully, she said, no, I want you to be Kanchan again.
Mm.
So I
But you know
remember
what the
you
most hilarious thing in the film is that Simone Singh's husband has no idea what's happening. He's just watching these two women dance. It's so funny. Everybody else gets closure, but him, he doesn't know a thing.
And yet
He's
he
so
has that intimacy of
Yeah,
care with her. Like he's
exactly. Yeah,
taking her
yeah,
through cancer, which
yeah.
nobody else knows,
yeah,
No.
right?
exactly.
So
Honestly, I don't know why that whole cancer thing was. Like
I
a friend of mine, Anisha, do you know Anisha?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like maybe I know her
So
Twitter handle or something.
yeah. She used to be Ani Bunny. But anyway, she was like, anyway, this person is living inside of the closet her entire life. Now you want to give her cancer and kill her off also. Like it was so unnecessary to give her that cancer track. But I guess you needed to show some vulnerability somewhere with her character
But
as
there
well.
were so many unnecessary things. Like what was that whole like homeopathic or Ayurvedic Viagra track where
Oh my
Gajraj had
God.
this unending erection, and I was like, really? Like, okay,
But,
why? So
but also the American accents. Why?
I almost checked out, and I have an accent that's not dissimilar. I do hear myself, but also I was like, oh my God. So between their talking when they speak
Yeah.
English, and then
And then
their
Hindi.
daughter and the son are just, they have that young couple just is devoid of any charisma or relevance or anything. I hated them.
Yeah.
So there was
Yeah.
a lot that was distracting me from the things I really did like in this film, sadly.
yeah.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is that it's so packed with unnecessary things that the five good things in the movie that should have been the focus on the entire film,
Yeah.
then maybe like you just lose out on that, because why don't you just focus on the good things that you have? And why would you cast Shiva Chadda and Rajit Kapoor for these parts? Like just get people who've grown up in America, who are actors in America,
Right.
who have
So
that accent.
Right.
Like I'm seeing Shiva Chadda talk so normally in like all the other, and how can I buy that she's an
So
American?
this is a theory I have, and I could be
Yeah,
wrong. I could be giving the makers too much credit, but my theory was that they were intended to be like these weird, fake people whose accents are put on, and then they keep talking about like Indian values, but at the same time, they do drink alcohol. And then the lie detector, which was the most weird thing. Like when the lie detector happened, I was like, wait, is this Meet the Parents? What is happening? So my assumption was that they were meant to be caricatures, like these weird, like Trump loving,
yeah,
because there are people like that here. There are like Desi people out here who do support Trump and who love Trump. I
yeah,
have no
yeah,
idea why, but they exist. And there's just this weird mishmash of being proud of being Indian, but also they support bigotry. It's the weirdest thing. So I almost wonder if there was an intentional choice, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just lazy
no,
writing. I don't.
sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I think it has to be intentional, because neither of
Yeah,
those are actors who know how to work with directors and all. It must be some kind of parody thing that tonally
That's
somehow didn't work with everything else.
yeah, but
maybe.
I feel like everything else that they had was so serious and so grounded and
Yeah,
so like worth it, that if you,
yeah,
even if you have the parody, then you make like better casting options maybe, because these two we've seen these two people a billion times do a billion good things, and you're not going to buy these fake accents, and just like it's so distracting from the main thing that's happening. Why are they talking like this at all? And when she's talking in Punjabi, it's perfect. So
But
the
so
American
that's why I
accent
thought
has
it
not come
was,
to Punjabi, it's only come to Hindi. Like it's all so weird.
yeah.
Why?
But I
You
have
know?
to say, I love that Udan Khatola scene. I love the scene where Simone Singh really like gives it to Shiba Chadda,
Yeah,
and she's
yeah,
basically, this is the jackass you're married to. Like, listen up,
yeah.
sister. And then Shiba
But
Chadda
again,
gives.
yeah, but again, like the film has such bad craft, like it's so technically awful. Like to make the decision to have that very important scene on a green screen and have the terrible VFX in the back. It's such a, why wouldn't you just do it like just sit in a corner somewhere in that beautiful location and have this scene? You don't need to do it in the cable car ride. Like that's so
Right.
bad. And many other things like the house looks so artificial the way it's lit up, and I just don't, it everything just looks so shoddy. And I was just almost
Yeah.
checking out in the first 30 minutes because I was like, oh my god, these American accents, oh my god, these parents, oh my god, this love story, oh my god, this house. But then when you start with the whole Madhuri story and that very
Yeah.
nice scene where she
Yeah.
accidentally comes out,
Yeah.
that's when I was like, okay, if Madhuri is going to say I'm a lesbian in this film, then I owe it to the film to sit through it. And then I'm
Right.
glad I did sit through it, because you have to get over so many like awful things to get to the really good parts in the film, which I don't know why you would do that. Like if you know the risk is that you get the gay parts wrong and then you get everything else right, but
Right.
they've just subverted the risk here. They've gotten the gay parts amazingly well, and
Right.
everything else is wrong. Like, why would you do that? I don't understand this.
But I remember that you were a little bit reluctant when I messaged you, and I was like, "Listen, Beth and I want to talk about Maja Ma, and we wanted you to come on." And then I was like, "Can you watch Maja Ma so you can participate in the conversation?" And then you were like, "Oh God, you didn't want to. You were like reluctant." I think it
But
was because
all,
your mom and I were like, "Watch it." That's why
yeah,
you watched it. So why was this reluctance?
no, it's just my reluctance with most Hindi films nowadays, because you don't feel like watching Hindi films nowadays. Like, I
Right.
don't know what is wrong with them. I don't know. And I'm including my own films because obviously people might think that about my films also. But maybe it's the way they cut the trailer, maybe it's the way they market the film. It's just like there is a resistance to watch anything that comes out, or anything that's new, which is also why the last out of the last 5 trips that I have made to the theater, 3 have been for non-Hindi films.
Yeah.
3 have been for Ponniyin Selvan and like Kantara and all these films. And I don't know why, because even Maja Ma, the trailer said nothing. It gave away nothing. It didn't give
Yeah.
me how direct the film was going to be. I don't know what the logic is in, because your film is going to drop on the OTT platform anyway. It's not like it's a theatrical where people have to make the effort to buy a ticket. So that's why you can't say the word lesbian in the trailer.
Yeah.
There's no logic. If
You
your
have more
film has
freedom.
that great USP of this superstar saying that she's gay, just put it in the trailer. I want to see that. I want it to bring
Yeah.
me to the movie. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. So yeah, I don't know. The resistance is not for Maja Ma, it's just for everything. Like, I don't want to watch it. Like the last movie that I wanted to watch, ironically, was Brahmastra.
Okay.
And that also ironically, because I was like, what could they have made in 10 years? I just want to see what it. And everybody, like all of my friends also were like, let's just see what it is. And then it turned out like whatever,
Yeah.
decent-ish. And yeah, but going back to my original point, it's not just Maja Ma. And yes, gay films get like, it's so difficult to make a good one in
Yeah.
India. And why like Badhaai Do gets so many brownie points and so many marks and everything. Like there isn't a single flaw in that movie for me. And it's
Yeah.
maybe it's like an emotional thing also. But even when I look at it as a writer or as a director, or
Mm.
that, like there isn't and that film has the right kind of comedy, which is not
Yeah.
the kind of comedy that Maja Ma has, which is LPG gas and LGBTQIA plus people confusing the two, which is so ridiculous. Like
Right.
a lot of journalists replied to that story of mine saying, like, not even the rookiest of journalists, even on the first day of their job, would make that mistake.
Right.
So this is like a clear, like a directorial writer's choice to do this. And I don't know who it's funny for, because if your audience is the community, they're not going to find it funny. If your audience is somebody who appreciates the nuances of Madhuri's character and the directness of it, they're not going to appreciate it. Now, if your audience is Rohit Shetty, then they'll appreciate it, but you've not made a film that is Rohit Shetty. Like, it's so confusing.
They're not flying cars.
I mean, it's not a silly movie by any, like, including the American accents. It's not a silly movie because even in the American accents, you're putting the point across that these are like MAGA people who are running for mayor, and like they are bigoted in America and they are bigoted in India, and like, so even the things that they are saying in this cringe accent are adding to the story. I just don't know why the cringe accents are there. I think tonally it's a very confused movie. We'll just love it because of the certain things it gets very right.
I really think, like, now that people have had a chance to see it, if I'm going to recommend it to others, and I will, I would honestly tell them to start at least 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I can just say, like, the potential in-laws are horrible bigots who think they should lie detector test people, and just start them with the daughter at the rally or something.
Yeah, speaking to that point, I also never expected the lie detector test to come back in the end, and I thought that was a super plot device, because it was such a weird start to the film that a boyfriend is going through a lie detector test, and I almost forgot about it. But then when it came back around, I was like, oh, okay, like this is a good sort of throwback to what you started with, and it feels ridiculous, but I mean, people take gay people to babas to, that scene. Like people do conversion therapy, and there are ridiculous things that gay people have to go through, and in that scheme of things, a lie detector test is actually funny, and like, why not? So in that way, it was a good plot device.
So my husband and I were actually discussing because we had so much to talk about after we finished watching the movie. And I said, I had such mixed feelings about the lie detector, because on the one hand, it felt very gimmicky, and it also felt like a copy of Meet the Parents. Like, I was like, is he supposed to play like Robert De Niro? What's happening here? But then on the other hand, we were talking, and I was like, this almost feels like, those old timey like Agni Parikshas, which weren't just gay people, they were just for women. Or in the US or in Europe, you had like, the Salem witch trials or stuff like that, where it was so ridiculous, right? It's like push a woman into a body of water, and if she manages to swim to the shore, then she's clear, you have to kill her. And if she sinks, then she is innocent, but she's dead. So, but at least she's not. So I was like, in the context of that, I was like, women and gay people and just anyone who belongs to any sort of oppressed class has been through so much shit that I guess that makes sense. So eventually I came to terms with it, but initially I did find it a little cringy and gimmicky.
Yeah. I found it cringy in the beginning when they suggested it, that she has to go through the test. But by the time it came to the test itself, I was so into this character that Madhuri plays that I was with her along the ride for the test, for the actual test. And very interestingly, so my mother said that she has a favorite line in the film, and that she would tell me after I watched the film. Okay. And I was pretty sure that the line would be where she says, like, I'm more than a mother, daughter, whatever. My individual existence, and you have to give me credit for that. And it's in the trailer. It's kind of like the line of the film that you would ascribe to Madhuri's character and stuff. And I asked her that whether that's her favorite line, and then she surprised me and she said that no, her favorite line was actually in the car after the test, when Madhuri says, they asked me all the wrong questions in the lie detector test.
That was great.
And the right question would have been if you ever were in love with a woman. And that's so cool. I mean, this is the generational kind of thing that I'm talking about, that a film like Shubh Mangal or Badhaai Do would be all up in arms about rights and equal rights and let us live and this and that. Whereas my mother's generation is looking at it more emotionally. So they don't want to discuss the rights right away, which might be a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But they are at least understanding via Madhuri Dixit that it's okay to love somebody from your same gender. And
Right.
the way to communicate this to them is not through rallies and pride marches and parades, because they don't get that. They don't get that sort of importance, why that's important and why it's important to go out on the roads and talk about it. What they do get is that love can happen anywhere. And because
Right.
Madhuri Dixit is saying, I would have been in love with a woman, now they get what being gay and falling in love with the same gender, the same sex means. So that's actually really great. And these are the things that the film gets so right from a point of view of an actress who is in her 50s now. And it has to be different from Ayushmann or Rajkumar Rao talking about it. So that way it's like full 10 on 10.
I have to say, I am a diehard Madhuri fan, so you'll have to excuse that for a second. But I have to say, I admire her for the fact that I think she's pretty much the only A-list superstar I can think of who has now done 3 films where she has kind of either played a gay character or she has played someone who supports unequivocally and unconditionally a gay character. So the first one was De Ishqiya, where at the end, spoiler is that she and Huma Qureshi were actually lovers and they hatched this whole plot together. The second was Fame Game, where her son is gay and he supports him completely. And then, of course, there's this one. And that brought me to a point that one of my favorite films of all time is actually Kapoor and Sons. And I had read that the role that Fawad Khan played was actually offered to 5 Bollywood stars, Hrithik Roshan, Farhan Akhtar, Shahid Kapoor, Saif Ali Khan, and Aditya Roy Kapoor. These are all men who have who love to talk about how they're very modern and progressive and well-read, and Saifu especially loves to go on and on about how he's so like intellectual and whatnot. And yet when push came to shove, when it was time to actually play an out and proud gay character in a movie, none of them were willing to do it. And it took a Pakistani actor called Fawad Khan to actually portray a homosexual person. And I just have always found that a little bit disappointing because I'm a Hrithik fan. So I was like, couldn't you have done this role? Because I do think that when you have big superstars who have gigantic fan followings, when they do roles like this, it normalizes it that much more. I love Fawad Khan, but he's not a superstar. He doesn't have the star power. Imagine if Shah Rukh Khan did a movie tomorrow where he plays an out and proud guy and he's living with his lover who is played by, I don't know, Hrithik Roshan or something. A girl can dream, right? I mean, imagine how much that would do. So right now, at least it seems like in Bollywood, there's only one person who's willing to actually be like, yeah, sure, I'll play a lesbian. And that seems to be Madhuri Dixit.
Yeah, you're right. But also no male star ever has said anything that supports anything politically. That's just a fact. None of these names that you've said have ever unequivocally even come out in tweets about the LGBTQ community. They've not supported or said anything to that effect. So I feel like they're almost non-existent as far as this question is concerned. In fact, Saif Ali Khan has been very like cringe with his like gender politics.
With his eugenics and all those comments.
No, not even eugenics. He's just been very cringe on Coffee with Karan about gender politics, and like it's just very bad. So I don't forget playing these parts in films. I don't even expect them to talk about it because they've never spoken about it. And in fact, it's only like the female character, the female actors who have always, like at least played parts or come out in support or whatever. I'm excluding the young generation of actors from it because now obviously like they are more woke and they are more supportive of the causes, and they have made film choices which are reflective, whether it's Sonam. So we can't discount Sonam, even though she hasn't worked in a bit because of whatever. So she did Dekh Ladki Ko Dekha.
That was the movie.
Yeah. Exactly. And she did it when she was working, when she was here and working. So women have always done it. Male actors of today have done it because they come from a different sort of understanding. But it's ridiculous to even dream about Hrithik Roshan or Saif Ali Khan playing these parts because they've not taken a stand for anything. It's not just LGBTQIA plus. They've not spoken about the current government. They've not spoken about the atrocities that some minorities are facing. They've not spoken about minor issues like they've not even spoken about issues which affect them, like when the whole multiplex owners versus theater owners thing was going on. It's just been dead silence from everybody. I don't think they are good for wishing people on respective festivals on Twitter, and they
Or
are good
happy.
for doing happy Independence Day, happy Garba, happy whatever. They are just the most vanilla people that exist today. So expecting them to play a gay character, I don't think it's happening in our lifetimes.
Wow.
Is it
Okay.
is this any different in any of the other language industries? And I'm thinking specifically about Bengali because that's the only one that I know much about other than Hindi. But you know, I was actually looking at a list on Wikipedia of Indian films that have queer characters, and Ritu Parnav Ghosh's films aren't even on that list, and I don't know why not, because obviously he was fairly groundbreaking. I
think in regional cinema, he's the only one in Bengali who's like across regional languages. He's the only one who made films about queer people. And it's surprising that maybe it's because they are regional films and they are only targeting Hindi films in these listicles. Maybe because of that. But yeah, I'm not the best person to talk about this because obviously I've not had the cultural experiences of other states. But I don't feel like they are okay enough to do roles like, a Malayalam superstar feels still more regressive than a Hindi superstar, even though the stories they are saying are so global in a way and so rooted and grounded in a way. But all the stories that are getting acclaim, even in Malayalam cinema or Tamil cinema or all of these various things, are always like very cis-het, very like normal issues, the most they have managed to like tackle is feminism and women, because thank God, so they have to start somewhere, and they are really big on caste issues. Like even this Kannada film that I watched, even Marathi films that do very well. So caste is like become like a big thing now to talk about. Everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to normalize it and get rid of this status quo, which is very, very good. But LGBTQIA plus is a very, very long journey. I
think there's only two movies that come to mind when I think about trans issues. Wasn't there Vijay Sethupathi Super Deluxe? And then I think Amar Palekar made Daira a really long time ago, like eons ago.
Like that in Marathi, you have Natrang, which is not about the community at all, but tackles the community in such a beautiful way. So Natrang is there, Zogwa is there. Zogwa is beautiful in its portrayal of, like, again, has nothing to do with the community, but just in the way that a man has to cross-dress because of a religious reason. And then you have a love story where a man in a sari and a woman in a sari are singing a love song, which is so beautiful visually on screen. So even if they don't talk about the issues directly, there are characters in the films that are gay. There are characters in the film that are trans. So, but it's like two films in the history of Marathi cinema that I can think of. That's not nearly enough. So that way, I think Bollywood is still going to stay far ahead of the curve because they've now understood that this is a thing that sells and we must make things.
Especially Ayushmann Khurrana will be more than happy to. So speaking of Ayushmann Khurrana, so this is how I torture Nihit. I messaged him and I was like, okay, so we wanted to come on our podcast, please. And he was like, sure, I'll come. And then I was like, okay, but here's the catch. You have to watch Maja Ma. You have to watch Shubh Mangal Zyada Saavdhan. And he was like, there goes my weekend. I was like, no, you can weasel out if you want to, because Beth and I will talk. And then he's like, no, I'm coming on the podcast. I want to. Your review of Shubh Mangal Zyada Saavdhan to me on messaging was, you said that you watched it for 17 minutes.
That's my review. It's ridiculous, that film. My God. First of all, I can't watch any more Ayushmann Khurrana. I'm sorry, I need a break for 5 years. I
I'm
just
tired.
cannot.
He's
I am
overexposed.
done with him he's digging around for minorities with a vengeance. He is done with three-fourth of LGBT already. And that's only because he can't be part of the LGBT, because he won't be the hero then. So
Right.
I don't think, he's done with the Northeast. He's done with caste politics. He's so desperately looking for minorities that he's a male doctor who's a gynac student. Like, what is
Mr.
happening?
D
I
or
just need a
something. Yeah.
break. Yeah, I just need a break. But apart from that, what pissed me off, and this is like a really specific point, and I might
Yeah.
be either overthinking or over intellectualizing or whatever, but what really pissed me off in Shubh Mangal was that at no point in the 17 minutes, granted I've only seen it for 17 minutes, did Jitu and Ayushman look like two people in love.
Mm.
So that was my biggest hurdle. They looked like two college boys from TVF shows who were just so like nonchalantly pally with each other. And
Hmm.
there's a different way you are when you are with the love of your life, and there's a different way you are when you're with your buddies. There's like, if you don't realize that in the first step of filmmaking, then I don't know. It just pissed me off a lot, because at no point did they look like a honest, believable, genuine couple who's in love with each other. There is no physical intimacy. The way they look at each other is like how I would look platonically at a friend. So that, and 17, okay, so like, just to get a little bit academic about this, your film should have its first big plot point at the 20th minute mark. Like, that's just what you're taught in screenwriting. That just makes good sense when you're writing, even if you don't want to follow the rules, because 20 minutes is a long time for people to sit through and like get to the gist of the story. And at the 17th minute mark, I still don't know what's going to happen. It's just like they are just helping Bhumi Pednekar escape. Like, what is happening? Why am I watching
Yeah,
this
that
film?
was very strange and
I don't
unnecessary.
know. Yeah. And then the writing became so cringe, because like, you already have this family where they're growing black cauliflower, I want to say. I don't even know what that was.
Yeah.
And they're calling their son the Kali Gobi of the family. Like, this is, please make another film. Please don't touch the LGBTQ community. If you want, with this kind of like humor and this kind of sort of taste, you please make a film about anything else. We don't need you. Thank you very much.
So I did think he had more chemistry with Vani Kapoor in Chandigarh Kare Aashiki. So there's another subject
Okay,
that Ayushmann has picked
that
off
I
in
have
his.
not that I have
Ah.
not seen, because honestly, so many people hated it that like I could not get myself to watch it. Yeah. But from secondhand knowledge, I know that at the end of that film, from a couple of friends who told me this, that Vani Kapoor, who's actually the trans person in the film, her issues get resolved like that, and then the end is Ayushmann Khurrana lifting some dumbbell over his head or something and like becoming the weight champion. So he stays the hero of the film, and then
Right,
that
he
was
does.
problematic for them. So, but I would not know. I have not seen this film. I don't know if it's meant for Ayushmann to be the hero and like the trans character is just like happens to be there, whether it's that kind of vibe or whether they've done it disservice. I would not know.
Mm.
Okay. How do you all feel about Fire, which to my memory at least is probably the earliest film I saw that tackled
Yeah.
this subject. I think it was Fire with Shabana Azmi, Nandita Das, and then after a long gap, you had some of like Kapoor and Sons and all of these.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't know if it holds up, but it was pretty groundbreaking at the time.
So from what I remember of Fire, because I also watched it maybe 13, 14 years ago, I'm not very sure. I loved it when I watched it, because it felt like there is recognition of what I'm feeling. There is recognition of an option to live in life in an alternate lifestyle. But this is like 15 years ago, Nihit. But the more I think about it, because I remember the gist of the story, even though I don't remember the specific like arcs and scenes within the film, what I do remember from it, which now feels like very cringe and like, no, don't want this, is that they get attracted to each other because they don't find love with their husbands. And that was like justifying why women become gay, because if you're not a loving husband, your wife will turn gay. And that's like a really cringe way to look at it. So that aside, again, I would give it full points for directness, because there is actual nudity in the film and so much of it. And you at least had the visual representation of breaking the glass ceiling, where you've never seen that on screen in a serious movie before. And here's a serious filmmaker with serious actors who've given it their all and done it. But still, if the core of the attraction is going to be like, if you're going to try to justify why people are lesbians, then that's not really the point. But apart from that, I think we have to give it points because it was so long ago and it did the job so well visually, so perfectly, and it did break some sort of a glass ceiling, I think.
Right. One thing that always annoys me, and I don't know if you feel the same way or you feel the same way, Beth, but like in so many of these very mainstream Karan Johar produced or directed movies like Kal Ho Na Ho, there's that whole Kanta Bai subplot, very cringe, and then there's Dostana, and then songs like Mada Ladla and everything. Never really understood why that was so cringe and awful. And then even in Coffee with Karan, I know that he does that little rapid fire where one of his questions, which makes me want to shoot myself, is where he goes, if you were to have a gay encounter with someone at gunpoint, because apparently that's the only reason you would have a gay
That's the only
encounter.
reason you have gay encounters, yeah.
It's like, if you had to have a gay encounter at gunpoint, whom would you choose? And even then, some people will be like, no, I wouldn't. Like, even at gunpoint, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the way that this is sort of like trivialized and used as an opportunity for haha, lol, so funny?
But like, very honestly, I'm just going to sum it up in one line. We can't talk about Karan Johar as a gay person. Like, it's just, it doesn't count. It can't count. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my whole take on it, because there is nothing there.
Right. It's still very irksome though. It always alarms me when I hear, like, for example, I know he's going to make Dostana 2 again. Like, he's going to make Dostana 2. And I was like, one was enough. We don't need another one, but it just keeps going on and on.
It's just that like, some people accept that they are gimmicky. Now, I don't know how to counter that. If you're going to accept that you're gimmicky, then who am I to say anything?
Right.
Be out, proud, loud, whatever. But it's just like, it's sad that that's the kind of content that has shaped our worldview in India vis-a-vis gay content, because we were all young when Dostana came out, like really young when Dostana came out, and when Coffee with Karan was in its initial seasons. And this is the kind of conditioning that a lot of people will have grown up with them. That's the sad part. But I don't think discussing Karan Johar as a force for gay stories makes any sense, because barring the beautiful and brilliant Bombay Talkies shot that he made, nothing else matters. I mean, nothing else matters. Yeah. I hope he has that same kind of sensibility. Oh my God, you have to.
It's so good.
Really? Okay.
Excellent. And it's only Karan Johar's story in Bombay Talkies. Like, if it's okay if you miss everything else.
Okay. I'm confused. Maybe I'm confusing Bombay Talkies with Bombay Velvet. Was there also a movie called Bombay Velvet?
Have you seen the film where Randeep Hooda is gay?
Which one was this one?
Oh, you haven't.
Not Bombay Velvet.
You clearly haven't seen it. Please
Last
go
movie I saw in which Randeep Hooda was there was Love Aajkal 2. And I couldn't get past how terrible that movie was.
Which I have gladly not seen. I am just like skirting all of these movies very nicely and not watching them.
Well, that's the
And I
sad
don't
part.
have a Bollywood podcast, so I don't have to watch them.
Yeah, exactly. No, we don't either. Like one of the things when Beth and I were discussing starting a podcast, I was like, listen, this is our podcast. This is literally just two friends whose brains have been turned to mush during the pandemic, and we want to talk
Yeah.
about Bollywood movie, but it's our show. So we will watch what we want to watch and we'll talk about it. If you don't like it, die.
Right.
And so we're not going to force ourselves to watch anything horrible. Like if we don't want to watch Kabir Singh, we don't want to talk about that. It's fine. Like we pick what we want to
Yeah.
watch.
Because also that podcast would just be the both of you screaming. Like
Nobody needs
else
that.
would it be? Yeah, exactly.
So this way we're happy and we're giggling, and at the most we have like a few quibbles here and there, but we don't hate ourselves and the world at
Yeah.
the end of our
Yeah.
show, you know.
That's right.
So it's fine.
Can I ask a language question?
Yes, please.
I was at a discussion a couple weeks ago by so American Indian as in native indigenous people, not American Indians live in America, about two-spirit identities, which is a big term that means many different things in many indigenous communities. And someone asked, is the word queer helpful in conversations about two-spirit identities? And the people on the panel, who are all different tribal identities and gender identities and all, said not really, because it kind of it's another Western concept. It doesn't really apply. Two-spirit is much bigger than just gender or sexuality. So it kind of is something, but it's not all that helpful. So I was just kind of thinking about, I mean, and I don't speak Hindi in any kind of way. So is the word queer helpful in, I don't know, in character development, in marketing, in anything about the films? Are there other words that are more helpful?
So very honestly, the word queer is not as big in India as it is in America. So even though people from the community would identify as queer, I don't think it'll ever come to a place where it's become a marketing term or a publicity term for a particular film, because not a lot of people understand the word in India. So you would first have to do a round of education where you explain the word to people before you can market your film that way.
I mean, I feel like it's fairly new. I feel like it's
Yeah.
fairly new in the US at a wide level, right? Like
Correct,
I'm older than both of you, and I definitely did not grow up understanding that word to mean what it is used to mean now. And then the meaning has changed, I'm sure. So yeah, no, I can imagine that.
And but the word is so like frequently used now in American pop culture and American media that maybe Americans have grown to be familiar with the word at least. Yeah. What happens in India is nobody goes to the QIA. Everybody stops at LGBT. So we need to first educate the people about LGBT, and then we can go to the QIA plus and what all of that means and stands for, because we need to start at a more basic level. And I mean, it'll be like it's like a new product. So you have to first familiarize people with the product before you can start marketing it in your movies. But I think the basic terms like lesbian and gay and trans work very well. And I'm also talking about like generationally to educate like an older generation who would find it much more difficult to understand what the term queer means vis-a-vis what the term gay means. So I think it's a very slow journey, and people who identify as queer are like educating other people and are doing that thing. But in terms of like pop culture and mass media right now, I don't think that's a word that a lot of people relate with or like communicate with. So yeah, that's probably doesn't apply here as well.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
So any parting thoughts that anyone has, anything they want to get off their chest, anything else they want to say either about Maja Ma or the movies we discussed or just anything in general?
We haven't talked about the super important contribution to gay roles in India in Student of the Year by Rishi Kapoor.
Oh gosh, I haven't seen Student of the Year.
But that's again under the banner of Dharma and Karan Johar. So
no, and I think you're exactly right. And that, I mean, that obviously is a tiny little ending thing in that film, but I just remember watching that and going, huh. So like he gets to maybe feel good about himself for having played that character or something. I don't know. Like you said,
don't
it's
know
hey Joe, it doesn't
either.
matter.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, the thing is either do representation right or don't do it.
Sure.
No one,
Hmm.
no review in a film where there are no gay people is going to state that, oh, this film is bad because it doesn't have gay people. That's just never going to happen. It's not a thing that is a problem. So if you don't have good parts for gay people, don't include them. It's okay. We'll deal with your majority heterosexual cisgendered existence in cinema. It's fine. We'll go watch the movies because people aren't just going to go for the brownie points of gay characters. I want to watch Alia Bhatt also on the big screen, so I will go. So just like, and there are a billion examples of this, especially with the series on OTT platforms nowadays and stuff. There'll always be like one tertiary character which is just in the background that happens to be gay and doesn't really contribute to the plot in any particular way or any like valuable way, but you just need the brownie points of having gay characters, so then they are there. But
Do you feel
though
like
I
that
think
about
it's
Made in
sorry.
Heaven as well? Because there was Arjun's
Oh
character
no,
in
no,
Made in
Made in
Heaven.
Heaven is
Went
excellent.
to
We
jail
love
and
Made.
everything for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and because of the portrayal of intimacy and because the abandon with which they did it, and interestingly, again, an Amazon thing. And like, I think we
Hmm.
have to give a shout out to Amazon for like having two great direct things on their platform. But yeah, Made in Heaven is great. That no complaints
Yeah.
about that.
Hmm.
But there are like just like very random characters in so many shows and movies nowadays that why, like, I don't need it. So
Maybe it's like a list. It's like a little
yeah,
Google
yeah,
Doc
it's
or document. It's like, okay, done, ticked off.
check off, check off, check off. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's that. So that I feel like don't even deserve a discussion because they are not serious about it, so why should we?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
a great, I mean, I don't want to stop the conversation, but that is a great thing to end on because really
Yeah.
like, if you can't do it right or do it better, then go back
do
Or
to
do
it,
the
it with
yeah.
drawing board and
sincerity.
try harder. Yeah.
Or simply, Beth, don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's always an option. There's always an option to not have a gay character in the film. Please know this.
You do not need
Yeah,
this.
we do not need this. Yeah, we will eventually get a Badhaai Do, we will eventually get a Maja Ma, and we will be fine and we will have our own journeys. But you don't have to have a gay character in Student of the Year, where I'm literally like going for the triathlon or whatever that was.
No, but
And
I'm
I'm
still
going
holding
for
out
like,
for Shah Rukh. In Shah Rukh, we trust.
yeah,
Shah Rukh
yeah,
will do it.
exactly. I am going for the little Kajol cameo also, where I don't want to see characters. I just want to see the Kajol cameo and come back. Yeah, so yeah, it's irrelevant. It's not even like a thing for discussion because it comes and goes. Maybe some people give it brownie points for including that character. Maybe they feel like it's still visibility even if it's done badly, but I don't, in my opinion, it doesn't. It neither adds nor subtracts from the current situation. So why?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
We
Well,
haven't spoken about Badhaai Do, but that requires another podcast. But let's just like say that it's the best film this year.
so your ranking would your ranking be Badhaai Do on top, and then where would Kapoor and Sons come into the ranking? Where would
See,
Maja Ma?
Kapoor
I
and Sons
already know
again.
where Shubh Mangal Saavdhan is.
See, Kapoor and Sons again is a 95% straight issues film because it does get the credit for including that aspect. But at no point have you seen Fawad Khan be explicitly gay
Hmm.
in verbally, visually. There is no insinuation also that he's gay. You just know that why is Alia Bhatt not into Fawad Khan? Who cares about Siddharth Malhotra when Fawad Khan is on screen? So you just have that doubt of why not. But until that very last scene where Ratna Pathak sees the email exchange,
Yeah.
there is no sign of his sexuality. So
Right.
even though it like gets brownie points and it is good, it's certainly better than Rishi Kapoor in Student of the Year. That's the kind of, because it's still showing gay people in like stereotypically normal ways, like they are not feminine or they are not caricaturish or they are not silly in the film. And of course, the added points of Fawad Khan playing the character.
Yeah.
But still, if Fawad Khan is playing a gay character that is majority straight acting in the entire film, then it doesn't really like do anything, you know. Like the impact on culture from Kapoor and Sons on the gay community vis-a-vis a Badhaai Do or a Maja Ma, is like no comparison there.
Right.
Like Kapoor and Sons is always going to be Kar Gai Chun. It's never going to be the gay character that Fawad Khan played, you know. And it's going to be the fantastic plumber scene. And these things which come to mind first and not the gay character in the film. So yeah, I think Badhaai Do, there's no ranking. It's at the top of its game. I am extremely jealous that straight people have made that film. I am so envious. I want to kill them all, but I love them all also. I have done a panel with them, actually. I have done a panel with the entire team of Badhaai Do, where I because I couldn't pass on the opportunity when it came to me. So I interviewed the 3 writers, the director, Shiba Chadda, and like everybody. And it's a great film. It's a great film to put sexuality across. It's a great film to put the struggles that gay people go through across. It's a great entertaining film. It's a great film for parents of gay people who are represented very well in the film also. It's a great film for causes like adoption to be made legal for gay people. It's knocked it out of the park. There is no, I can't think of another movie which is perfect. And obviously I'm biased because I'm from the community, but even as a writer or as a filmmaker, I can't fault it at any place where like, you know, oh, I would have written this differently. Like everything works, everything fits, everything is believable, even to the point where both of them just want to get drunk and decide whether we should kiss and see what happens. Like that's such a beautiful, tender scene, which people in that situation would do in real life. And then they sort of decide not to go ahead with it. And it just, everything makes sense. Who else has given 2 women a slow motion song in a pathology lab over a blood test? Like that's that's like Shah Rukh Kajol level romantic. That's so beautiful. So yeah, no complaints from Badhaai Do. It's the best film as far as gay issues are concerned. It's, I think, the most universally loved film within the community also. And like a lot of gay films are divide the community itself. Because of the kind of and the way of representation, but I don't think I've seen a single gay person not like Badhaai Do. So full
that's scene where Bhumi Pednekar was with her dad, and until then he's kind of shown as like he's her buddy, and they have this like amazing close relationship and everything. And I honestly did think this could just be my naivete or stupidity. I honestly did think that in that scene he was going to like melt, and he was, you know, like, because they've just had this great relationship, and I was like, no, he'll have this like epiphany and he'll accept her. And then to hear the words that came out of his mouth, I started crying, because it was just sort of this et tu Brutus moment. Like I really genuinely thought that he was going to accept her in that moment. And then when Bhumi's character starts crying, I was like, holy shit, like, you know.
And most films would have done that, you know. Most films would have made the character accept her in that moment. But what sets it apart and makes it great is the fact that he says, why did this happen in my house? Because that's exactly what every single heterosexual father says. There is no way around it. You know, even in Maja Ma, for Gajraj Rao's character to turn around so like in a jiffy and just say that you go live your, it's not believable. But that's not the point of that film. The point of that film is Madhuri's acceptance of herself. So we let it go. But that's precisely what works in Badhaai Do, is that it stays so true to everything. And then even in the final puja scene, you see not even half of Rajkumar's family come. So you know that there are still people who are angry and upset and who will not accept this for what it is. And that's the reality. I mean, I almost want there to be a sequel to Badhaai Do itself, where you see that 1-year gap in which the parents came to term with it. Like that is the only part which they've skipped over with like a title card saying 1 year later. But that 1 year later is the most important part of gay people's lives, like right after coming out. That's what's also needed to be shown, but okay, we can't have everything. But yeah, that reaction
You
from
should
the father.
suggest to them. You should be like, hey, I'll help you write this story. Let's do
I have
this.
already. You think I've
Okay.
not done it in my panel? I've already had this conversation with them. But yeah, that's exactly why it gets so many things right. Like this idea of a lavender marriage, like it's so like, why did anyone not think of this before? It's so right there,
Yeah.
up for the grabs. And even like very little things like they had a joke, a very throwaway line about sexual roles in gay people, and where Rajkumar is like, but you said you're versatile. And how many people only gay people must have got it. But
Yeah.
they made the effort to put stuff like that in the film, which actually matters to the community, and it's a joke for us internally. It's not a movie for straight people. It's a movie about gay people by straight people for gay people. It's like such a
Right.
beautiful thing. Yeah. So it gets so many things right. Even like that whole, I'm sorry if I'm blabbering on, but it's Badhaai Do.
No, we love it. Please do.
But like even with that whole
We don't need to talk about
loneliness,
this in real life, Nihit. Unlike you, we're not
yeah,
in the film industry. We have completely
That's right.
different jobs. So this is our
yeah,
opportunity once a week
yeah,
to talk about stuff that we want to. So please continue. And please
yeah.
come back.
I will.
Anytime
Call
you
me
want to
back for
come and grab
any.
it, just be like,
Yeah. So even no, with the whole loneliness angle of like, Rajkumar saying that I once ditched a guy and now I am the older guy who I had ditched, and now this young guy is ditching me. It's so relatable. Like I got goosebumps in the theater because this is such a deep cut in gay culture that
okay.
you're getting right, and you're a straight person with straight writers who's done maybe 2 rounds of research with gay people, but to pick up the right points in the research itself also matters, because there are people who would have picked up all the wrong points in the research and just done a surface level job. And like with the whole, like there is a stereotype of lesbians taking it too fast and like moving in the second day
Falling in
and then
love.
the third day, and you see Chumdaram in immediately, after the second date, she just comes and moves in with Bhumi Pednekar's character. So these are things that that's actual representation of what is happening in real life, and what the stereotype is, and what the inside jokes are, and what really matters to the community, and it gets all of it right. And that's
Right.
why like it's the movie to beat as far as gay content in India
Yeah.
is concerned. Yeah.
I love the last part of Badhaai Do where they have that like pride parade and everything happening. And I love that Gulshan Tiwariya had his own way of living in the world, and he was out and proud, and
Yeah.
he's going to be
Yeah.
leading the parade and waving pom poms and being like in your face about it. And Rajkumar Rao wasn't, and
Yeah.
it's fine. It's okay. Everyone gets to choose their own journey, and everyone gets to decide
Yeah.
how vocal or not. I think that point was also kind of touched upon in Maja Ma, where the daughter is so, like she really,
After
really
eyes
wants
of-
Madhuri to come out of
yeah.
the closet. And Madhuri at one point is like, it's not your decision to make, it's mine.
Correct.
I get
Yeah. Yeah. That was one
it.
of the better, great things about the film also, because that's a really nuanced point, and you don't have to pull people out of the closet. You don't get to do that. And for
Yeah.
Madhuri Dixit again to say that adds a
Yeah.
lot movement, or the just like the status of gay films in India. Because if Madhuri Dixit, who like we know from our childhoods, is going to say you get to
Yeah.
choose when you come out of the closet, it's a huge thing.
Yeah. I also, one of the points that Ajit made was that, when you talk about like tier 2 cities and these small towns in India, where maybe people from her generation or boomers or whatever, they may not be interested in watching a movie like Shubh Mangal Zyada Saavdhan or Badhaai Do, whatever, because of the star cast, but they
Exactly.
will watch a Madhuri movie. And if Madhuri is saying it's okay, then okay, we're not going to
Yeah.
automatically turn into super progressive overnight, but it's a step
Correct.
in the
Yeah.
right direction because Madhuri is saying it.
It's at least thought provoking. At the very least, older couples
Yeah.
are going to have a 2-line discussion about this. Even if it is, why did Madhuri decide to do this role? Even if it's starting there, it's a conversation. Which
Right.
why would older cishet people with no connection to the gay community ever have that conversation? It's
Right.
because Madhuri is in a film who's played a lesbian and now they have to talk about it. So
Yeah.
that way it's excellent. Yeah.
So I'm curious because you said that it was your mom who watched Maja Ma and she told you that you should watch it. Like, has she seen any of these other films? Like, for example, has she seen Badhaai Do? What did she think of those?
No, so Badhaai Do I'm saving because I told her we'll watch it together. So we are going to watch
Okay.
it together.
Nice.
So she's not seen Badhaai Do. And I don't think any other film before Badhaai Do had the kind of Kapoor and Sons, obviously she's seen, but and we saw it together. But like I said, it was just like, it was like at the tail
Skimming.
end of the film, it comes in and goes out. And again, the issues of the family and like the secrets within the family and the book being stolen from one brother to the other took over that whole angle of him being gay. So it comes for a total of 5 minutes where it's given importance, and then everything before that and after that is not about like being gay. So I can't really count that as a gay film, even though it was an excellent film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think my mother's first exposure to like gay content. Oh, okay, so she's seen my short film, which is also on the
Oh
same
yeah, tell
subject.
us about Phir Kabhi.
Yeah. No, so it's just like it's two conversations, it's two monologues, and it's two people trying to tell each other secrets that they have kept from each other for a really long time. And one is Manav Kaul and the other is Amrita Subhash, and they have very different kinds of
I love
secrets.
her.
Yeah,
She's so low.
yeah. So one is they are a husband and a wife, and sorry. I got a phone call.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry. So they are a couple living together, and I wanted to explore this thing where people during the lockdown, like I've always said in all the Q&As that also happen, is you get to, if you have secrets and you get to step out into the world, you get to disconnect from the secrets because you're going into your work, you're going into your activities, you're like you're deflecting, and you can get
You're
away from this
busy.
because you're busy. Exactly. But during the lockdown, what if you're forced to stay in the same house with the exact person you're hiding the secret from, and there is nowhere else to go? So what happens when that kind of a situation comes? And that's exactly what I wanted to explore. And it's two big monologues, one by Manav and one by Amrita, and they're just sort of talking to themselves because they're coming out to themselves first before they can tell their partner. And then the final scene is where like they sit on the same table ready to talk with each other. So that's kind of the premise, and it's very much about like Manav's character is gay in the film. This is what he realizes as he builds his monologue and tries to tell his wife how he realized he was gay when he was little. And Amrita's character is about like sexual dissatisfaction from her husband. Then you realize it's because of obvious reasons, because her husband is gay and like not able to satisfy her or whatever. And she talks about like how, like just about women's needs and her conditioning about like what happened in her childhood that always made her not talk about things, and why she's never spoken about things. And now there is this thing that she wants to talk about, but she can't talk about it because she doesn't have the vocabulary to, or she doesn't have the tools to talk about it. So it's just about that. So my mother had seen that film and then she saw Maja Ma, but yeah, that's been like the first big exposure for her as well, and she's not seen Badhaai Do yet.
Nice. Okay. So guys, if you're still with us, and I hope you are, because I know me and Beth had so much fun having Nihit on. Please watch Maja Ma. It's on Amazon Prime right now. It has Madhuri Dixie and Gajraj Rao. It's awesome. And if you haven't seen Badhaai Do yet, you need to correct that mistake and go watch that as well. I personally like Shubh Mangal Zyada Saavdhan. Neet, please continue to be friends with me. So I would also recommend watching that. And of course, Kapoor and Sons. I mean, just watch it for Fawad. Come on. But yeah, that's this episode for tonight. Beth, why don't you tell them what our next episode is going to be?
Next episode will be the second one in our Superstars series, where we're going to talk about Wahida Rehman. Pitu watched Guide, I watched CID and Cora, and we would love to hear what other people think about her because we love her.
We do. So please don't forget to like and share and subscribe to our podcast. We're on iTunes and Spotify as well. I do read all of your comments that you leave us on YouTube and on our Instagram, and I do respond. So we would love to hear what you thought about this episode, and any questions that you have for us, or we can just have a conversation going. And thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.